Oh yes. My place. She is.
Professor Abid Mohanty, Islamic Studies, Professor Mohanty from GNU, former professor here, and Professor Giridhar Rao, he is from Azim Premji University, Bangalore, our Dean, Masood Alvi Sahib, our colleague in Islamic Studies, Professor Hassan, and guest speaker, Bhavesh Patel. Please. From CIIL and Professor Sangeeta Bhagat from Sweden. From Sweden. You are where in Sweden?
At Jönköping University.
Professor Dijiro is the director of the CIIL. CIIL? So Mohanty from Hyderabad, Professor Shreyas Mishra, former director of CIIL, Dr. Pradhan from Bombay University, Dr. Abid Bashar from Assam University.
One of our, I cannot read this, but one of our alumnus has been vice chancellor of VKJ.
Assalamu alaikum. To begin our program, I request Professor D.G. Rao.
الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم كلا إن الإنسان ليطغى أن رآه استغنى إن إلى ربك الرجعى أرأيت الذي ينهى عبدا إذا صلى أرأيت إن كذب وتولى ألم يعلم بأن الله يرى كلا لئن لم ينته لنسفعا بالناصية ناصية كاذبة خاطئة فليدع ناديه سندع. He is of the guidance or advocates righteousness. Do you see how he disbelieved and you turned away? Does he not know that guidance? No. If he does not desist, we will drag him by the forelock. A deceitful, sinful forelock, let him call on his gods. We will call the gods. No, don't abhor him, but kneel down and come near. Thank you.
Request Professor Masood Anwar Alavi, Dean Faculty of Arts, who is a very well-known Arabic scholar, to kindly welcome the guests and participants.
नहमदुहु व नुसल्ली अला रसूलिल करीम Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected Vice Chancellor Professor Tariq Mansoor Sahab, Chief Guest Professor D.G. Rao, Director CIIL Mysore, Chairman Department of Linguistics Professor Syed Imtiaz Hussain Sahab, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear students, Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of the Faculty of Arts and the Department of Linguistics, and personally, it's indeed a pleasure for me to extend a hearty welcome to the inaugural session of the Three Day International Symposium on Linguistics Across Disciplines, organized by the Department of Linguistics in collaboration with the Anthropological Survey of India, Kolkata, CIIL, Mysore, and ICSSR East West Regional Center to celebrate its Golden Jubilee this year. The symposium is particularly special in nature because it's a part of the linguistics to mark the completion of 50 years of the Department of Linguistics, which was founded in 1968 under the steward leadership of late Professor Masood Hussain Khan. As I remember, he was born in Aligarh on January 28, 1919, and passed away 16th October 2010 at Aligarh. About 94 years of age according to Islamic calendar. Yeah. And he was a scholar par excellence and a man with a spectacular vision. We are honored and privileged to have our Vice Chancellor, Professor Tariq Mansoor Sahab, amidst us today on this special occasion. We heartily welcome you, sir, and we are very thankful to you for the immense support you always extend to us whenever we face any problem. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to the chief guest this morning, Professor D.G. Rao, Director, Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysore, who very kindly accepted our invitation to deliver the keynote address in this inaugural function today. It's so heartening to see the zeal and dedication towards education in general and CIIL in particular. We are very grateful to you, sir, for taking time out of your busy schedule. I'm honored to greet all participants who have come here to deliberate on various perspectives of linguistics that are hugely contributing in the progress and advancement of all subjects and thus bringing different disciplines closer to each other. I'm sure this symposium will throw new lights and open new vistas on linguistics across disciplines and will bring out fresh outlook on the significance of the subject. With these few words, I conclude and I once again extend a warm welcome to all present here this morning. Thank you very much.
Sir S. Imtiaz Hussain Sahab to introduce the International Symposium.
Good morning. This seminar began as a mark of celebration of our 50th year. And we thought that the most befitting thing to have this kind of a Golden Jubilee celebration is to organize an academic event. And we started with a journey of holding a national event. But we have our wonderful friends across the world. When they came to know about this seminar being organized in Aligarh Muslim University, they decided to come and participate in the seminar for two reasons. One, of course, they have been to this place before, and the second strong reason has been that they have been associated with the department in different capacities. For example, some of our participants who have been here as adjunct faculty, Professor Sangeeta Baka-Gupta, Professor Richard Hallett has been our visiting scholar. These were the people who had been, so we thought that, okay, they are coming. I'll stop here and I'll just welcome Professor Rukmini Bhaya Nair, who is from IIT Kanpur.
IIT not from Kanpur, Delhi. Okay.
So this is how we began our journey from national event, and now it's an international event because we have a couple of people who have come from Germany, from England, and who have come from Indonesia. About this seminar, language in all possible dimensions of human existence is the main object of study for linguistics.
This raises an important question. Is it possible to conceive of society without language and its multimodal presence in all fathomable domains of human existence? And the answer is no. Because our faculty of language is essential for us to be humans. It is also a repository of knowledge gathered by the people through ages. As famous saying from Bhartrihari's Vakyapadi goes, all knowledge resides in language. At the turn of the 20th century, thinkers began to wonder about the role of language in shaping our experiences of the world, which led to the resurgence of the view that language plays a significant role in creation and circulation of concepts. The resurgence rekindled the importance of the study of language and made it a significant area of inquiry for all disciplines for social sciences. Dismantling of disciplinary boundaries perhaps stems from the idea that language is not just one to represent our thought, but it is the very condition of thought. This concept is sometimes labeled as a linguistic term, an endemic current of analyzing socio-cultural phenomena as language. Linguistics, in fact, has moved outward from an emphasis on phonological theory, syntactic theory, and idealized forms of language to a broader concern for the study of language in its cognitive and wider social settings. We have amidst us people who have been working in cognition, Professor Rukmani Bai Nair, Professor Richard Hallett, and Professor Sangeeta Bhagat-Gupta. They have been working in the areas of education, cognition, and social domains of language. Interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research emerged with linguistic turn and brought together various disciplines for creating new knowledge at the intersections of new disciplines. For instance, to understand how language has been very important to study the conceptualization and formation of modern nation-state, politics of identity, linguistics makes an interface with political science to investigate the pragmatic aspects of political practices, political discourse, and its manifestations, which are beneficial for the study of language, polity, and society. Application of cutting-edge symbiotic ties between linguistics and technology have not only given talking computers that can take command in human languages, but are also helping to deaf those suffering with Parkinson's disease and speakers of small languages in the preservation and archiving of their languages. What underlines the interface between language and technology is the voicing concerns. For instance, in case of detection of onset of Parkinson's disease, there are no known biomarkers except the voice tremors, whose presence is now being considered as significant indicator of the disease. Scientists have been working on the reliable computer algorithm to detect abnormalities in speaking patterns in order to help clinicians in their diagnosis of this neurodegenerative disorder that causes shaking and other movement problems. Forensic linguistics is on the cutting edge of forensic science, which helps in setting voice recognition, security systems, or in discerning voice writing pattern of social offenders with far more accuracy and efficiency. The interface between historical linguistics, population biology, evolutionary anthropology, archaeology, and genetics has facilitated the studies of human diversity and linguistic diversity in different regions of the world. The symbiotic exchange and uses of resources from this interface have substantiated the findings required in the understanding of migration. For example, related haplology in natives of Andamans established that the Great Migration took place from Africa. A pioneering study by Professor Anvita Abi with regard to Andamanese has proved that there exists a sixth language family in India which is an Andamanese language, and it has been corroborated by the research from genetic, particularly fingerprinting. These are the contributions that are coming from linguistics with its interface with genetics. In our multilingual and multicultural context, language and education cannot be divorced from socio-political realities of our society. Insights are drawn from linguistics for making teaching and learning more meaningful. There are sufficient experiential evidence and academic documentation available in support of the critical importance of learning in one's language. In the realm of language and education, linguistics has constantly been reminding us of the importance of mother tongue interaction and of curricular content that builds on local environment and culture. Learning is linked to experience, language and culture practices. One learns in different ways, with each emphasizing different senses and abilities. I am happy to inform you that we have Professor Ajit Mohanty, who has been extensively working on mother tongue education, Professor Panchanan Mohanty, Professor Krishna Mohan Pradhan, and Professor Abdesh Kumar Mishra, who have been working in the areas of mother tongue, mother language education, and we have those people here with us. The strength of linguistics today is consilience, that is cutting across boundaries of disciplines. The term consilience is used to indicate the search for successful construction of links that are concerned with disciplines, which are based on collaboration among researchers having different background and different expertise, rather than specific theoretical and methodological approaches. Consilience also brings with it uneasy moments in its encounter with different disciplines and is surely likely to cause tensions between disciplines. Disciplines are also governed by methodologies, which have Western theoretical orientation, projecting universality and totality. Such dispensation also requires problematization in terms of theory and methods. Consilience is likely to raise tensions in the methodology between the standard methods on the one hand and the local issues and ideas on the other. For dominant methods of analysis are often Anglo-American Western in origin and orientation. For instance, identity is not a universal concern. Local, particular issues such as relations, rebuilding harmony, may be more pressing and real in non-Western context. What we also need to understand is that multidisciplinarity is not sufficient for global humanities and social sciences. Consilience must be coupled with cultural diversity in worldview, theory, methodology, topics, data, and concerns. Ethnographic appropriateness perhaps can be a mantra for evolving methods that are eclectical and adaptable to non-Western views and concerns. What is desirable in this consilience is the bringing of divergent and competing language games in Wittgenstein terms that construct and act upon reality and allowing interaction and negotiation among different and contested discourses of corresponding communities. This Golden Jubilee celebration has brought together scholars who are actively engaged in cutting across boundaries of their disciplines, and we hope that the symposium will serve as interdisciplinary platform for addressing a range of issues that seem to exhibit the relevance of linguistics across disciplines. Thank you very much.
So we are going to do now something new. In this era of technology, when people are distancing themselves from nature and greenery, we are reminded of a couplet by famous Urdu poet Mir Taqi Mir, Rukmini ji. सब्ज़ाने ताज़ा रोकी जहाँ जलवागाह थी, सब्ज़ाने ताज़ा रोकी जहाँ जलवागाह थी, वहाँ देखिए तो अब नहीं साया दरख्त का. we are making efforts to remain connected to nature. Instead of presenting bouquets, we are going to present potted plants to our dignitaries. Potted plants to our dignitaries on the dais. I call upon Hiba, Atufa and Afifa to present the flower pots to our beloved Vice Chancellor. Professor Tariq Mansoor Sahab and Professor D.G. Roy to very kindly release it. Thank you. Cover designs of this profile, department profile and Aligarh Journal of Linguistics. Thank you, Mustafa. Now I would like to request our Vice Chancellor, Professor Tariq Mansoor Sahab, and our Chief Guest, Professor Aligarh Insia, to present the books. May I now request Banami to present the memento to Professor G.D. Roy.
D.G. Rao.
G.D. Rao, sorry, sir. I request Dr. M.J. Varsi to present a memento to our Dean, Professor Masood Alvi Sahab. Professor Masood Anwar Alvi, Dean of Instruction. Professor S. Imtiaz Hussain, the Chairperson, Department of Linguistics and the coordinator of this conference. Learned linguistics from the country and abroad. Dear students, guests, media, and other participants. It gives me immense pleasure to be here and join with the doyens and of linguistics in the world. Sometimes I feel I'm a little bit rather diffident to address you before because I am a multidisciplinary. I am not basically linguist. I started my career as a biologist, and I worked about 30 years in the NCERT and various capacities. And there we worked as a science and education together, as a science education, and with other disciplines too. Of course, must be there, the NCERT has diversified areas of education. Then, the Government of India has given me the opportunity to head this Central Institute of Indian Languages. I was very much diffident when I took over as the director of the institute. But everyday learning with the linguistics I think I try to contribute little to the institute to strengthen it and further progress in the direction of in different areas of the linguistics. There are two significant currents in the academic landscape. The first aims at providing greater autonomy to disciplines by delimiting their scope and methodology and recognizing their frontiers in clear terms. The second bring together disciplines by identifying common threads of practice and drawing parallel between them. Both the currents are impactful and dispensable. As a result, the idea of inter, trans and multidisciplinary has gained currency time and again. It is interesting to see that the scholars at times put in concerted efforts to indicate the claim that a given subject is interdisciplinary. But however, some disciplines are inherently interdisciplinary as they have natural give and take with other disciplines. Linguistics or the language science being one among them. It is therefore the symposium Linguistics Across the Disciplines appears so inviting. The title is as self-explanatory as the qualification of the linguistics as an interdisciplinary pursuit. However, it sounds interesting and relevant from several perspectives. An important perspective is that linguistics lends itself to and cooperate with several disciplines traditionally regarded as hard and soft science, social science and humanities whatsoever. It is one such discipline that has constantly enriched the study of other disciplines and has incorporated insights from them all. So linguistics across the discipline doesn't require justification. The recent surge in computer and web-enabled technologies would not have become a reality if there were no contribution from linguistics. The human quest for robotics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Linguistics has, in a way, revolutionized the way human viewed pursuits like communication, cognition, education, history, psychology, and sociology. In these interactions, linguistics has also been gained a lot of and becoming diverse with time. Linguistics has been undertaking constant exchange of ideas with neuroscience, physics, and speech science. Today, this is many areas I think still linguists have to be interacted with other disciplines, especially in the education aspects. I interact with my colleagues several times. See, there is today we develop lots of textual materials of different organizations at the state level, at the school education or higher education. Never we request or there is no participation of the linguist in this aspect. Because when you develop, we do not know whether the books are readable or not. That is where the linguists have to play a role. Whether neither the discipline-specific textbook writers or the linguists, never they approach them, work together and develop the books, the textual materials for the children at different levels, whether they are in a readable stage or not. That is one area we have to still to work together. And I do not know, sometimes we say we are interdisciplinary, how this start with the home. I do not know how the linguistic department have the interdisciplinary approach in their university, but I have to see that. Professor Indra, I think you can. So I don't. This my concern is how this linguistic department has the interdisciplinary approach in your university itself. How far that I have to know it. Yeah. This is what is required. Similarly, because I must be having, you have the Urdu department. How much of the linguistic role in that, how much component of the linguistics aspects of the language teaching, because many of the universities, because we come across, we see that the language teaching means it's only literature and the poetry, poem, drama, all these things, but the linguistic component is missing. If I am right, I think you can correct me. Because I have seen it, some of the, we have also developed, when I was working in the NCRT, we have worked with many of the school curricula, where we have seen that the language education, we say Telugu or Hindi or English and all this undergraduate level programs and all, but the linguist participate, the component is missing. If I think I expect that, I think that the considerable recognition should be given. I think the participation of the linguistic component is very much necessary to develop the language pedagogy and other areas. This is where I strongly, but I interacted with many of our senior colleagues when they visit our institute, and we are also in the keeping in that, we are also planning to design some language education program at undergraduate level in all the Indian languages are concerned. We are planning out, and we have prepared the structure, because whether they do it or not, we prepare the structure and we provide the different universities so that they can try to establish. Because what happens when you come to the students, when you draw from the general, because if you have a linguistic program, is there MA linguistic or MSc linguistic program, but where are which type of students you are getting? And they don't have any background of the linguistics at the basic level also. Because if they come from the language education background, and if they have the bit of the fundamentals of the linguistics, if they have the component, then I think you can draw better students in to perform this linguistics. Because today linguistics is not giving the just degree, and because they have to associate with other disciplines, because unless they are well exposed to, and then only it's possible. Today we have see, as a CIIL, we have many organizations we are working. It's not the only interdisciplinary. We are a trans institute, and we have different agencies also working together at present. Of course, academic part, we are collaborating with many of the technology institutes, and like NITs and IITs are also collaborating with us. And IIITs also, we have collaborative projects we are working. Besides that, many other agencies also, they are associated with us. They are drawing some work from us. Like even this courts, they approach us. Even this the CDI also periodically they come and they draw from us resources, because they also require our inputs. And similarly, many a times they you can also expect, even we have also participation of the linguistic participation from our institute with the RBI, because today I think you must be, some of you are aware of it, the currency and the printing, when a new currency note comes, I think that is CIIL has to certify the language and other part of it, because different languages are printed on that. Because that's not everywhere the linguists participate in different disciplines, different organizations. That's why when we prepare the linguists and the students, I think we have to prepare them qualitatively, and they should have the thorough exposure of it. One side we have the language documentation is not one, but in the language documentation we have multi-disciplines, so a role is there. One side sociology, one side culture, one side history, one side medical, because they have lots of ethnobiology and ethnomedicine, and all the aspects are also required, because the students should have exposed to all the areas of it. It's not one discipline specific. That's why I request, I think, in the universities especially, we have all the departments, and the linguistic department should be the core, and then try to penetrate, and it's not penetration, it's to have the collaboration and the interdisciplinary approach. I think in all the departments, we as much as possible, especially I think Urdu department, I do not know how much of participation, again I will ask, and there should be a good amount of the linguistic component is to be established. I think that is necessary, to that you can prepare the better qualitative Urdu teachers required to the nation. That is what I have in my mind, and especially because you know that CIIL, we have other resources. I said we have different national projects we are working at. One side, National Translation Mission, National Testing Service. We have language data consortium of other Indian languages, and we have the one scheme that is CIIL. Scheme for the protection and prevention of the endangered languages. Many of the linguists throughout the country, they are associated with our organization, and directly or indirectly. And then see, in different projects, we have digital projects, Bharatvani, and like many other projects we are offering. and we have collaboration with the NIT Kharagpur, and then we have this. We are also planning to establish some IITs because we have huge corpus, and you must be aware of it. Under the LDCIL project, we have the huge corpus. I think no other institute organization has such a huge corpus in the country, because recently we have, first time we have pricing and licensing of the corpus, corpora which we have developed. That I think we are giving to the public and to the nation and the public. And many of the IT companies are also participated in that meeting. They are eager to purchase the corpus, because today they are required whether machine learning or this mobile application. If the mobile companies, if they want to come into heavy into the Indian languages, but they read the corpus, because without the linguist participation they cannot realize their technological outputs, because that's what the corpus which has much demand. Because if you any of the linguistics and are interested, they can also collaborate with the CIIL, because we are also trying to collaborate with many organizations to develop this. And of course, it must be language documentation is concerned. Several organizations, several resource persons throughout the country, they are working with us. And I think already we have contact now. We are working on about more than 100 languages for endangered languages of less than 10,000 speakers. We have attempted it, but the many more languages we are working. One group is working, the commission at the Andamans. They are working on the different languages there. Also endangered languages are concerned. That's why it's throughout the country, but we have the participation through our regional center. We have also regional language centers are there. And we have two, for your information, we have two Urdu training centers, one at Solan, one at Lucknow. And through that, I think language education we do under the three language formula is concerned. We have the 10 months diploma program is available to the students, especially the teachers, and would-be teachers also now we have extended, and the public also, those who want to learn, we are also providing. Besides that, recently we have the proposal of the under the Ministry of this HRD. They have requested us to prepare the language education at different levels in all the Indian languages under the SWAYAM, and I think we have submitted a project. If it comes, I think we wanted to release the programs and the at different levels, so the basic and intermediate and advanced level of in each language. Especially we start with all the scheduled languages initially, and that's what we are planning. That will be open to not only the India and throughout the globe. I think we are planning to do this. These are some of the efforts which the institution is taking up. And then this, of course, we have beside that many areas which I just mentioned on education, and we have to go in a big way the linguistics participation. And I think I'm interacting with our Sweden colleagues and then friends, and then they're also having the linguistics play a role in the tourism. The linguistics has a play in the journalism. There's also much in areas are also we have to attempt it. Not there is one discipline only the linguistics role. I think there are a variety of disciplines. I think we can learn, draw something from them, and then you can also give back to them. Let's say mutually you can benefit, and then this mutually benefited, and they bring out the quality resources to the nation. And I think with this, I think it is hoped that this galaxy and the doings of this scholars assembled here for the symposium from different parts of the country and the abroad will inform each other with their take on these issues, and finally we'll have a good compendium of this all the presentations. I think this 50th year of the institute, and of course the CIIL is also, we are also in the 50th year, the golden jubilee year. We are also this year, and I think both the golden jubilee years together, I think we are collaborating this conference. I think I wish all the best. Thank you very much.
To tell you briefly that the university has placed a lot of emphasis on interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approach, and as far as the Department of Linguistics is concerned, we are also actively collaborating with disciplines, with the faculties, within the faculties and outside the faculties. We have a collaboration with electronic engineering faculty, members are there, the project is there, and in the area of translation, and also we have in the syllabi, we have a component of linguistics there, both English, Hindi, Urdu departments. even in Malayalam and Tamil and Telugu departments. So there is a lot of collaboration going on. Thank you very much. Now I request Professor Tariq Mansoor Sahib, our Vice Chancellor, to please come and give his presidential address. Sir.
Director CIIL Professor D.G. Rao Sahab, Dean Faculty of Arts Professor Masood Anwar Alvi, Chairperson Professor Imtiaz Sahab, Dr. Jahangir Warsi, distinguished guests and our honored guests from the United States, Sweden, Germany, Indonesia, and other countries, as well as from other cities of India, Hyderabad, Bombay, Mysore, and my dear students. Assalamu alaikum and good morning to all of you. First of all, I like to apologize for the inconvenience caused to the organizers and to the participants because they had to make the makeshift arrangements for this symposium because we are having the student union elections. And so our normal premises where we hold these functions, they are a little disturbed at this time because we are a democratic country, so no in democracy. So canvassing is going on and they are taking some processions also. So this is a students' election, so it is not so much orderly also. So that's why they had to shift the venue here. For this I am sorry. But in a big university like ours, you don't know when such programs are held. So we have scheduled it and then in between the students' union election came. But I am very happy to know about the quality of the symposium. It is not the venue or the quantity which counts, it is the quality which is important. Professor D.G. Rao Sahab has rightly raised the question of interdisciplinary work. I think this is something which is very relevant for Aligarh Muslim University, which is a big university, which is a diverse university. It is not a focused university like engineering college or management or something like that. So I think this is something which is very relevant. Not only in the field of linguistics but also in other fields also. Because we have medical faculty, we have Unani and so many agriculture, the classical faculties are all there. The humanities and the languages and the social sciences. In the languages, we have so many language departments in the university. We have got Arabic, we have got Persian, we have got the biggest department of Urdu in the world. It is the biggest department. Faculty-wise, number of teachers which we have, and the number of research scholars. Then we have Hindi department, we have a Sanskrit department. Then we have foreign languages, 5 foreign languages we are having, including post-graduation we have started this year. In this Chinese, Spanish, German, French. Then we have modern Indian languages. We have department of modern Indian language in which we are teaching Malayalam, Telugu, Marathi, Punjabi, Kashmiri and a few others also. So I think Aligarh Muslim University is the ideal place and most fertile ground for interdisciplinary research among the languages. So I look forward. The Dean Faculty of Arts is also there, the Chairman Department of Linguistics there, other chairpersons are there. Let us do some research. They are already doing, but let us give more impetus to it. And let this symposium and this 50th anniversary of the department be a catalyst for further interdisciplinary research. I think we have to give stress to endangered languages. There are a lot of endangered languages in India, including the Northeast, the Himachal Pradesh, and in other places also. So we have to give importance to these languages also. I was reading an article in the National Geographic. They were telling there is an endangered language in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which is just spoken in 5 villages. So what they were saying that about 300 years back, some people they were migrating from Myanmar. This So think it was Myanmar, about 200 or 300 years back. And then the boats, they were hit by the cyclone. And then they were marooned in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Some people say 20, 25. And ultimately they settled there. And now they are having 5 villages only in which they speak the languages nobody else speaks. Even they think it is Myanmar because the dialect which they speak, it is closer to what is some languages which are spoken in Myanmar. So I think, and then they are trying to preserve their culture, they are trying to preserve their language. They have also opened a small museum in one of the villages. And some of the people, they have also gone from Andaman and Nicobar Islands to Myanmar to search for their roots, their linguistic roots and other roots also. So I think all these things are very interesting. And all of you must do, and all of us must do something to preserve these endangered languages. Ours is a truly multilingual country because we have got 22 scheduled languages in our constitution, more than 100 other scheduled, or maybe more than that, I don't know. I was just talking to Professor D.G. Rao. So there are so many languages, so many dialects also. So ours is a truly multilingual country. I went to, for some time, I was in one of these Arabian countries. So there, somebody used to come and help me for a few days. He was a Malayali. So I was how to talk to him because the only place where he had gone up from his particular district was to Saudi Arabia. I was there for a few weeks. He had never gone to any other place in India before that. And I was nil in Malayalam. How to converse with him? So we were conversing in Arabic. 2 Indians conversing in Arabic there. But I knew a little bit of Arabic from my mother, and because a lot of words of Arabic belong to Urdu, which is my mother tongue. So, for example, Hawa, it is air. It is both in Arabic as well as in Urdu. So many other words are there, so you can follow a little bit of Arabic. So ours is a truly multilingual country. And we should be proud of it. Professor D.G. Rao Sahib has rightly said, we must have symbiosis of this linguistics with technology, science, medicine, and with journalism also. And then you also have a very important role in helping the hearing impaired and the speech disorders also. Braille and other things, you have a very important role in this. Nationalism is one thing which is a danger to some of the languages. So some countries, they say our citizens, they are going to learn only one language, they are not going to study any other language. Especially in homogeneous countries like Japan and other places. We have to take care of this. There are many countries, you know more than me, where the nationalist feeling, they are not allowing the other languages to prosper. In China and Russia and so many other things are there. So that we have to take care of by becoming a more tolerant, more civilized society then only, and being more educated, being truly educated. I will give you an example of Switzerland. Switzerland is basically, because when I went to Switzerland, I'm a little inquisitive, so I inquired from them. They have 3 parts of Switzerland. One is the German part, which is 70% of Switzerland is German, Zurich and other places. About 20% is French, Geneva and others, they are French speaking. And 10% is Italian. Now in Switzerland it is mandatory, if you are living in the German part, it is mandatory for the children that they will study the French and the Italian language. And if they are living in the French part, it is mandatory that they will study the German language and the Italian language. And if they are in the Italian part, it is mandatory that they will study the French and the German language. So I think many of the countries we can learn from their experience. And they are very tolerant and advanced country. We have also to take care of the cultural diversity, as Professor Imtiaz Sahib and Professor D.G. Rao Sahib rightly said. The culture, because now we are a global village. Once we are a global village, I think very soon an aeroplane is going to come which is going to take us around the globe in 2-3 hours after 20-30 years. They have already mastered the technology. It will go into space. When it will re-enter, it will not burn. The heat shields will be there. The only problem is about the environment pollution, because the sonic boom will be there. Once it lands in New York or in Tokyo, then how to take care of the sonic booms? But that is, I think, not. But what the point I am making is that we are now going to be a smaller world. And this is smaller world, we also will need a link language. Ultimately, this world will need a link language in which all the humanities can communicate with each other. So along with the many languages which we have, the major languages and the minor languages and these endangered languages, we also will need to have a link language, maybe English or whatever it is, ultimately. So I wish the symposium all the best, and I'm sure that the deliberations will benefit all of you. At this time, our Department of Linguistics has produced great scholars in the past. Professor Masood Hussain Khan, who was Vice Chancellor also of Jamia, Professor Abdul Azim, Professor Abdul Ghaffar Shakil, and so many others. I congratulate the Professor Imtiaz Sahib and his team for organizing this symposium and for working so hard to get all of you here, because I know everybody is very busy. Unless you make a special effort, people, they don't come. And they don't come unless you give a personal touch and persist with them. So I congratulate Professor Imtiaz and his entire team for collecting such scholars from all over the world and India to this symposium. And I once again thank, though this is not a vote of thanks, all the resource persons and delegates who have come from abroad and India. Thank you so much.
My job is a little difficult because I don't want to be longer between you and the high tea. And so I would like to be very brief. Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Tariq Mansoor Sir, Professor D.G. Rao, Director Central Institute of Indian Languages, Professor Masood Anwar Alvi Sahib, Dean Faculty of Arts, Professor Imtiaz Hasnain Sir, Chairman Department of Linguistics, Masood Sir, my dear students, all the senior linguists, all the shining faces, some of whom I am meeting after 20 years, my friend Rajesh from Madras, we were together in US, senior linguist Professor Panchalan Mohanty, Professor Alaikum, to all of you. It is a great privilege and honor for me to extend a vote of thanks to all those who have made this historic event possible. Thank you all for coming here. First and foremost, I would like to thank our loving Vice Chancellor, Professor Tariq Mansoor Sir, who despite his busy schedule has found time to grace this occasion. Why I am saying because of his busy schedule, he is always there, but due to the Students' Union election, he mentioned everybody is so busy. I was at the Union Hall last night until 11 o'clock, so you can imagine how busy everything is going on. He is the guiding force behind the success of this international symposium. When I say loving Vice Chancellor, I say it in true sense. An accomplished academician, a courageous person, an able administrator, a visionary personality who has the vision to lead and take the university to a greater height. Sir, your idea of relevance, responsibility, responsiveness, along with the strict personal reflection on each and every issue has inspired all of us present here. Thank you so much, sir, for your steady, exemplary, and inspirational leadership to our university. On behalf of the university and on my personal behalf, I convey my regards and sincere thanks to Professor D.G. Rao, Director, Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysore. Professor Rao is a well-known scholar and has always been very generous to our department. We thank you for your talk, for the insight that has brought to all of us. I am sure all in attendance this morning have got a sense to look at the issue objectively with dedication to academic scholarship and how to be creative in our respective field. So thank you so much, sir. I wish to express my gratitude to Professor Masood Anwar Alvi Sahab, the Dean Faculty of Arts, for his minute-to-minute guidance and support and for providing encouragement and cooperation at every stage in organization of this symposium. Thank you very much, sir, for your keen interest in making this symposium a memorable one. Many thanks to my senior colleague, Masood Ali Bed, for so ably anchoring the proceedings of this inaugural session. I also like to thank all the honorable delegates who have come from different parts of the globe and blessed us with their presence. Some of you I don't know, but thank you so much for coming all the way around. We also wish to place on record our profound appreciation and deep gratitude to Professor A.R. Kidwai, Director, and Dr. Faiza Abbasi, the Assistant Director, UGCHRD Center, for providing all the support in spite of our last-minute request to change the venue of the symposium because of the MUA Students' Union election. Once again, thank you both for all your cooperation at a time when we were feeling very helpless. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Aligarh known for the rich and tasty food and comfortable stay. To make sure everything is in order, I must express my deep sense of gratitude to Professor Bilal Mustafa Khan, the MIC guest house. He has always been very supportive and ready to help us in all possible ways. Thank you so much, sir. We would like to extend our special thanks to all the sponsors, including CIIL Mysore, ICSSR, Anthropological Survey of India. Without their financial support, it would not have been possible to organize this international symposium. I would also like to express my sincere thanks in terms of finance to our finance officer, Professor S.M. Javed Akhtar, who has always extended all the support in making this event possible. As no program can become successful with a single person, so I extend my big thanks to all the teaching and non-teaching members of the department for their support and cooperation. A special thanks to the students of linguistics and LAM for their dedicated involvement in in organizing this symposium. Thank you all for making this event a successful and also for your contribution. I wish to express my sincere thanks to MIC Media Committee, Professor Sabe Kidwai, who is always there to help us, and his entire team for disseminating the news of the symposium. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. I wish to express my gratitude to the MIC CAW for providing all the transport facilities to our guests and delegates who have come from different parts. I will be failing in my duty if I would not be able to thank Mr. Mubin, who has taken the pen to publishing everything that you have in your hand within no time. Thank you so much, Mubin sir. Lastly, an event of this stature, and since I would like to survive in the department, it would not be possible unless I say a few words to our chairman, Professor Inaugural sir. Lastly, an event of this stature and magnitude requires detailed planning, a good time in advance. It also requires a meticulous execution that leaves nothing to chance. We wish to convey our sincere gratitude and appreciation to our chairman, Professor S. Imtiaz Hasnain, and the entire colleagues in the Department of Linguistics who have worked very hard to make this symposium a success, including, I name few, Pallav, Mehboob, Noman, Mehwiz, Salim, Asad, Asif, and all the staff whom I am failing to take the name, and the rest of their team take a bow. You deserve all our appreciation. Thank you very much. Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our inaugural proceedings, but before that, I would like to thank myself because I cut my vote of thanks from 8 pages to 3 pages, so thank you very much. We wish you all the enjoyable and rewarding stay in the beautiful and historic campus here. Wish you all for all the proceedings that we are going to have in 3 days. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We have a tea break now. Please follow us for tea. After that, we have first focus talk by Professor Rukmini Bhai Nair, which will be chaired by Professor Ravindra Gargesh. That will be in the room number 8. Please have tea. And participants who have come from outside, you are requested to, after that focus talk is over, assemble in room number D for your TADA bills. Thank you very much.
आपके वो कैसे वो the husband is also
अपर्चर कम कर दो जल रहा है
आप लोग आराम से
हाँ जी ठीक ठाक रात को लेट आए थे लेकिन भी वेरी थैंक यू सो मच
I know so this is I heard Jim Chandran from Chennai. Rajesh Kumar, IIT Chennai. So Ravindra Gargesh from the University. Pleasure to
हाँ लगा हुआ सब
Can you hear me?
We have Professor Ravindra Gargesh as the chair for this session. Professor Ravindra Gargesh is from Delhi University. He retired from there. He is a well-known academician. I'm sure all of you know him. He is in the area of applied linguistics, ELT, language learning. He is the president of and he is author of so many books, so many articles. I request Professor Ravindra Gargesh to please introduce Rukmini Bhai Nair and get the session started. Thank you very much. I'll try to work out with her mic. Thank you, Professor. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first session of this Golden Jubilee celebration year. Our distinguished speaker today is Professor Emeritus of Linguistics and English at CIIL. She received a doctorate from the University of Cambridge and was awarded second honorary doctorate from the University of Oxford. Areas of research for which we are recognised to national and international grants include narrative theory, critical theory, language cognition, linguistic mathematics, etc. She has created 5 critically acclaimed books, apart from her work in grouping. Because the time is short, I will have to here. She writes poetry for the same reason, but she does research in literature. Very multifaceted personality, very valuable personality. When you listen to her, you find out the kind of work she's doing on psychology. She is trying to discover the limits and possibilities of language, and if I may say language.
see what we can do. I want to thank India's Aligarh Muslim University, Professor Garge, and all of you for being kind enough to be here. I'm honored, and if you can't hear me and my voice falls, just tell me. And I'm used to getting up at 8 in the morning and shouting at unsuspecting students, so I'll be able to deal with this. So I wanted to say that although many apologies have been made since this morning, one being that the Vice said that we were displaced. And of course displacement, linguistic displacement and other kinds of displacement through migration are part of the human condition, which has been mentioned. So let us consider this quite challenging displacement. But I want to tell you that I was delighted to come into a campus through. Please feel free to interrupt me if you can't hear me, you don't understand what we do. My paper today is called Cognitive Processes and Rasa Theory, and this is way outside the way we have conceptualized linguistics in the modern era. And if you could see my screen, but I must tell you one thing. I was talking to my husband, who's a physicist, early in the morning at 5:30, just before coming here. And he said that Andre Weil, who was a famous mathematician, was here in AMU. He had come from France. And when he was in AMU, he started studying Sanskrit. And he became quite interested in this. He learned Sanskrit. And that AMU could have offered him an environment where you could learn Sanskrit, you could discuss mathematics and politics. Again, seems to me important because today I'm going to be discussing rasa theory, which we normally consider outside the bounds of linguistics as it has been theorized in the past. So now I have 4 sections. I may not be, can you read the 4 sections? In which case, just some introductory remarks. Then I'll talk about something I've recently got interested in, which is body language and cognition. Because as you will know, or you might have noticed, the language does not march alone, according to me. Language always carries with it other sign systems, hand gestures, facial expressions, and so on. And this is definitely a part of how the brain makes integrated sense of all our functions. Right? So I will have some opening remarks on language and cognition, then body language, then rasa theory proper, and language and culture, and finally some sort of closing argument, which we can not do if we are running late. So I'm going to begin by talking about interdisciplinary. Oh, it's gone? Never mind. Oh, I'm blocking it. What should I do with myself? My body. That is. So, am I now? Here's the word. So, interdisciplinarity, language and cognition. Tell me when I block this one. I begin with Noam Chomsky, who says, and Noam Chomsky is, one more thing to manage. Noam Chomsky is, of course, well known to all of us in this room. He says, an understanding of the faculty of language requires substantial interdisciplinary cooperation, and in this important paper with Hauser and Pitch, which was a programmatic paper, he says that we should work with evolutionary biology, which has already been mentioned, with anthropology, psychology, and neuroscience. Note that he does not mention history, literature, and all the other fields, political science, which concern us today. This is the place we must begin to theorize. But he says something which is equally interesting. It is for the people from stylistics here and other disciplines which are literary in nature. He says it is quite possible, overwhelmingly probable, one might guess, that we will always learn more about human life and human personality from novels than from the scientific psychology. This is an important statement because Chomsky, whom we think of as having started, optimality, minimalism, modularity, and all the arguments about language impoverishment of poverty of stimulus arguments, is now saying that if you wanted to learn about human beings more generally, or in Piazza's question, what is it that makes us human? You will have to also look at novels and literature. It's a rare statement from Chomsky, but I would take it seriously. Now, Chomsky's call for what he calls interdisciplinary cooperation is very widely reflected. Am I speaking away a little bit? Never mind. Is widely reflected at the current time across the humanities and social sciences discipline. And you have already heard the term consilience, which is the meeting between disciplines. But there are also terms like multimodality, corpora, affordances, which is the project of the Anthropocene, and embodiment. I'm going to be talking today particularly about embodiment, but all these are terms which have now moved into the arena of language studies and linguistics. Are you with me so far? Okay. Then, and we have all these fields, cross-cultural cognition, human geography, all sorts of eco-criticism, gyno-criticism, you name it. You have these fields which have been created recently, intersecting with each other. In the IITs, where I come from, where there is, and we are going to be talking about technological interventions, one of the things we talk about all the time is STEM. That is science, technology, engineering, and math. What I have suggested recently to the IITs is that we also think in terms of leaf, because stems without leaves do not produce chlorophyll or anything interesting. You need to look at stem and leaf together, and what I mean by leaf is a wide liberal education in the arts faculties or arts fields. If we combine these, we can look at what we linguists call interface areas, but we can look at the petiole areas where stem meets leaf. And this is something which has been theorized in biology and where we can think of interface in a more organic way. So I want to now, since I'm going to be talking about the Sanskrit tradition, very quickly draw on the work of Khubchandani. A few years ago, in 2013, we had a big conference, 800 people or something, of the International Pragmatics Association. And Khubchandani, who worked with the census, so language documentation, was supposed to give the plenary. And he said he fell down or something and he couldn't come. Accidents happen. So he told me, and, you give the speech. But when I looked at his speech, it was 75 pages long. And I thought, oh my God, how am I going to do this in 1 hour? So what I did was I kind of rewrote it and reconceptualized it. But these are the central points of Khubchandani's idea, which is a common idea in linguistics today, which is that we can juxtapose the idea of language as a code with constituent parts and built up as a code which is decoded at the other end of the communicative chain to language processes as becoming and changing all the time. So he's talking about the being paradigm versus the becoming paradigm. This is not a new idea, but his move, Khubchandani's move, was, I think, quite interesting. He went back to the Indian, so-called Indian. Now I use the word Indian very loosely because we know that we are talking about a subcontinent where the Sindh River, divides the geographic territory, and so Hindu is just a. Now, you want me to hold this? Hello? Is it working? So he relates his notions of language as code versus language as process, not a new idea, it's been talked about a lot, to the ideas of Patanjali, and he has this particular aphorism. Meaning is not produced by a word, but a word is produced by meaning. Okay, so the search for meaning is underlying the apparatus of language. That, anyway, was what Khubchandani got out of it. Khubchandani's gloss on Patanjali said, speakers and hearers in language communities attach a certain range of meanings to words and sentences. In other words, words are flexible. So you can say, this is a table, I'm not sure this is a table, but I think it might be, and to something which doesn't match the prototype of a table. So there is polysemy in every word. Any theory of meaning is intended merely as a systematization of this understanding of meaning, which as constantly producing ranges of words. Such a speaker-hearer understanding is manifested in use of language. So use of language is what applied linguistics do. Now, of course, there are many different theories of meaning, but the one that we are going to be looking at is meaning an absolute property of the utterance, or is the speech act to be viewed contextually in interaction with the parts. This is still Khubchandani. Now, many schools of philosophy in India, the Darshana, the sixth Darshana, and many other schools which came in through Mughal learning, through Arabic learning, and so on, project a broadly humanistic perspective on language communication. So they think that language, or the attempt to systematize meaning, is at the root of all our understanding of the world, in other words, our cognition. Language in sort of gives a kind of pattern to cognitive processes, and we'll come to this a little later. So these were some of the characteristics that Khubchandani spoke of. It is only in natural language that we can be sure of touching reality. Note the metaphor of touch, because touch is an embodied cognition, which is what I'm going to be talking about. And he talks of the intrinsic stability of concepts in natural language. Now, this notion of intrinsic stability seems to run counter to the idea, is this still working? Seems to run counter to the idea that language is kind of constantly flexible. But when we come to rasa theory, we will see that this notion of sthayi bhava, stability, is under, not addressed to me? No, okay. So, these texts, the Shastra, now the Shastra are texts, they are also dicta, but according to Khubchandani, the Shastra are generally, whatever the Shastra, whether it's the Natya Shastra, which we are going to be looking at today for rasa theory, or it is the Artha Shastra or any other kind of Shastra, they are committed to not a narrow focus notion of meaning, but a more complex definition of meaning. So he talks about the Spota theory, which many of you will be familiar with. The word is subsumed by the sentence is subsumed by discourse, and discourse by the chapter by the book. Look at this. This means, this notion of subsumation of word by meaning and so on, is there's a crossover in this description of Spota between writing and speech. So the chapter is subsumed by the book, doesn't seem to be in the same category as speech is subsumed by discourse. So there are many dots. Whenever you're looking at ancient texts, you have to be sure that there are many confusions. Our jobs as researchers is to iron out those confusions as easily as we can. So there's all this talk about Shabda Brahman and so on, which you can't hear me anymore, you can, is the notion of an indivisible word. And you know that hall, that in many temples in India, you have these halls which produce music as well as echoing effects. So that is supposed to illustrate the notion of the Shabda Brahman. Spota. Spota is a cognitive illuminations, and language is a lived process of such illuminations as well as erasures, things we do not get when we listen to others speak. And then this is interesting because Mandana Mishra was a very good logician. He comes after the other theorists, a bit later, but his reasoning, he talks about cognition, and he says the jeweler. So all researchers are jewelers. They look at something intently, and by his continuous gaze, i.e. a series of cognitions, because as you know the gaze is flickering and not continuous, perceives the genuineness of the stone but with increasing clarity. So how is genuineness, i.e. meaning, discerned? It is discerned by observation, staring and looking away and looking again. So each cognition leaves its samskara, that is a memory trace, and an expert or scientist has to understand what is a perfect stone. He has to have some kind of abstraction of the concept in order to apply it to the real moment of this evaluating a stone. You can think of stones as words, as gestures, as anything, but they all contribute to the notion of cognition and good communication. So have I communicated anything to you now? Good communication your assessment of my communication will involve your attention, cognition, going back and forth, and each time evaluating and reassessing the quality of the communication. So this is the notion of quality in cognitive theory. So then we have all these darshanas such as the Sankhya, the Advaita and the rasa theory, only the last of which I'm going to look. But there, you see, there is inbuilt into the notion of examining language the diverse skills of perception, inference and testimony. So when we look at that whole, we are talking about cognition. Now you might say, well, this is all very well, but I'm really not interested in what some ancient person said about cognition. However, we must remember that modern theories, and I've classified these because we were doing a project on Darwin, to which I'm going to come, consist of the nativist theories or innateness theories, where the terms are terms like modularity, recursion. I'm going to be looking at recursion for a bit. And cognitive appraisal theories, which says, cognitive appraisal theories roughly say, have I dropped it, that and then I wouldn't be so much dropping. Is that good? Can you see now? Okay. So there are appraisal theories, cognitive appraisal theories say that we are always in a bath of sensation. That is vision and hearing and touch, smell, sight, etc. Between perception and then cognition or understanding the meaning of something, there is a gap. Understanding that gap is the most important task for cognitive theorists. The gap between cognition, cognitive appraisal, and our arriving at a sthayi bhava, a stable sort of meaning. And then, of course, there are the relativist hypotheses, which I will come to at the end. So, even if we are looking at, let's say, contemporary theories, Chomskyan theory or psycholinguistic theory or anything, these notions of how we tie together inference, perception, understanding run across the disciplines. So now I want to come to something else which was mentioned this morning, just briefly before I end my introduction, and that is the idea of coding in computers. This is very important because coding is the basis of how you get a good communicative algorithm and other types of algorithms. Now, a lot of people in the coding universe, like Jobs and Bill Gates and whatever they are, Jobs says, computing teaches you to think. In other words, learning to code teaches you to think. Okay? Code, language is also a code. It's a very complex code. Computer codes are much more simple and algorithmic, but they are both codes. But you might argue that if you had a cognitive theory of meaning, other forms of human activity such as tying knots or shoelaces, sorting bananas from oranges, or reading stories also teach us to think. So what's so important about coding? Now, Indian people, a group of, I don't know whether you've heard of Satya Nadella, have you? So he's CEO of Microsoft, and his motto is, poetry is the best code. So it's because it's limited, it's short, and it doesn't tell you everything, but it invites you to examine that object, which is the diamond stone or whatever you want. So he says, these people say, Satya Nadella is one of them, Manju Bhargav, who is a fine mathematician, says that he uses Hemchandra's theory. Hemchandra was a logician, 12th century logician, to teach his students in Princeton mathematics by looking at heavy and light syllables and how they were tied up in Sanskrit poetic into knots. And he can explain, let's say, Fibonacci sequences and so on, using Hemchandra's logical format of Guru and Laghu syllables. So in other words, these people, and another person, what's his name, something Chandra, Vikram Chandra, have you seen this thing, Sacred Games, on internet? How many people have you seen this? So quite a few. So Sacred Games is written by Vikram Chandra. Okay, but Vikram Chandra, whom I know, is quite a good computer programmer. In fact, a very good one. So these people see that there is a connection between what in Sanskrit theory was being called poetics, broadly speaking, and notions of logic and coding. And they draw, they say, upon the Indian tradition when they do so. We don't have to take them at their word, but this is what they say. So digital cognition is very important, and there's only one thing I want to say about digital humanities or digital cognition, is that digits are, as you know, the fingers. Basic counting is done on the fingers. You know that. So the digits are important for your embodiment, is important for your sense of number and numerical coding. And today when we are talking about digital humanities, we must not forget the embodied nature of that metaphor. Okay, now I come to cognition. What is cognition? There are many definitions of cognition. This is mine, and it is etymologically based. We are told by Gregory, who's a very good vision theorist, or was because he's dead, that the word cognition derives from nomon, and this is the Greek word for sundial. It involves measurement. So, you know what a sundial is, right? Jantar Mantar, we have a lot of sundials, right? In our country, Jai Singh set them up all over India. Now, what does the sundial do? It takes a pole, which is a physical object, it takes the shadow, and it takes the sun, and through these very disparate and very simple objects, physical objects, it computes an abstract thing, which is time. You cannot see time, you cannot touch time, yet you know it exists. So one way to get at time is to measure it. And so cognition, which has the same root as narrative and gyan, is the notion that you can compute and measure abstractions which you may not be able to grasp directly through and inferences based on physical objects and computing those inferences. So to my notion of cognition, what is important is that we compute the interfaces or petiole areas between different types of modalities in the brain, such as, let's say, the language modality, but also hearing, sight, sound, touch, memory, etc. These are all modalities differently processed. When we make inferences, intermodality inferences, the brain is doing something interdisciplinary. It is combining inference. So that is my definition. I made this point, but this goes back to Imtiaz's question, which is that many people, including Darwin, and I guess you, believe that the word infans means without speech. Infans. Okay. Now, when do we acquire speech, language? At about, let's say, 3, we gradually acquire it, it's a series of cognitions. By 4, we've got language, we've held it, okay? But if at the beginning, a baby is in the same world as the animal world. It's a sensate world of feeling, touch, etc., right? And you might be saying that in that stage, a baby has the potential to discern meaning in a way that is different from other mammals. And that is where language steps in gradually. So we might say that humans differ from chimps. We have a very small genetic difference with chimps, as you know, hardly 1 or 2%, and other higher mammals, in that this is my definition of, and it's a very attenuated description because we do more than this with language, that is, we are language-using animals and we are tool-using animals. That's all. And these two abilities, tools and technologies, which often fail us, and language too, together combine to give us the tools to examine what's going on here, or mental cognitions. So these are the features of human language, which all of you know but you can't see. But at the bottom of this, you come to things like prevarication, learnability, etc., displacement, discreteness, and some of these, many of these are shared with other animals, but not all 16 features are shared. Among them, the features that are not shared is the ability to lie and convey meaning through fictions and other artworks. Not shared with language. We can talk about brain evolution. I can talk about this later. I won't go into detail in this slide because many of you will not be interested in brain evolution, but of course it's crucial. Okay. Now I want to talk about recursion. You know that Chomsky talks about two kinds of linguistic ability. The one is the faculty of language narrowly defined, right? Narrowly defined means the property of recursion, and all and only recursion defines what language is, and language is what makes us human. Recursion. Recursion is, how many words do you think you have in your heads? The many linguists here, how many? Rough guess? You're not going to guess. Well, we are not risk-taking animals. So, and let me say that they did a test and they found that the average American college goer, they did extensive tests, found that they have about 30,000 words. 30,000, not 5,000 as my students get, or 10,000, 30. All of us are bilingual, multilingual. So you say how many? You must have at least 50,000 words in your head. If you have 50,000 words in your head, the property of recursion will tell you that you can combine all these words into one long sentence through embedding. And that's the lovely thing about recursion. It's a very powerful machine. Chomsky says that powerful machine of combining all words and concepts, making new words, that is the property of recursion, and it is limited to humans. I want to make a claim here, which is that many of you do not know the word cognition, or do not use it that often, even if you know it, but you do use the word recognition. Do you? It is recognition. And recognition is important as an understanding to cognition. When do you recognize? And you do it serially. So I want to claim that recursion is a key feature of syntax, is analogous to recognition, which is a key feature of cognitive systems or inferential systems. You need to recognize in order to make rules. Okay? So what recursion is to syntax, recognition is, or recognition is to inference. We cannot make, we can translate this. There cannot be one time only when you have followed a rule. A rule means repeating. Similarly, with inferences, you have to recognize a pattern, and that means more than one instance. Okay, now you see. I don't know, these are not working for you. But can you see a face in the second one? Glasses on? It's just a sand dune. But we are primed with these devices. Can you see down those? They are just switches, light switches. The other one is a teacup. Can you see faces? Because we are cognitively primed for agent detection. We put this into words like recognition or whatever, but you're primed beforehand because you see that thing. It's automated. Do you not? I wish my images were clearer. Similarly, okay, now this is Escher, that's Ganga Devi. Art. Can you see the Escher? What's central to the Escher? Can you see something which is particularly Indian? Can you?
Yes.
What do you see?
Buddha.
Huh?
Buddha.
You see the figure of a holy man, right? Buddha or something. You see it even though the eye only recognizes patterns of black and white. But your cultural knowledge feeds into your primate cognitive abilities in order for you to recognize images. Just black and white, and you can do it in color too, because like goldfish, coloration. So we ask many questions about Ganga Devi's thing. Which fish is ahead of the other fish, etc. This will come from your world knowledge. Has one fish eaten the other fish? All this will require you to make inferences from world knowledge. Are you with me still? Okay. So recognition, just to say that the work or the kind of theories I'm interested in look at evolution. We will come to Darwin in a minute. By the way, I want to, Mr. Chair, Ravinder, I want to ask you to stop me. I can stop at any time. Doesn't matter. So tell me when I should stop. Okay, so tell me. We'll stop when it's not so important. So this is Agency Detectors in Evolution, and it's by Atron and Norzel. And they say that early recognition systems, visual systems, primed you to see prey and predators. And today when you see dots on a computer screen or something, you immediately cognize those as things which are either threats or friendly, which trigger fight or flee reactions. And this can happen with language, because language itself can, galia, curse words, can prime you to get angry, right? That's a fight reaction. If you tell somebody to damp down, that's a flee reaction, except that it's been transferred into the, what shall we say, the social sphere. So now we want to go into brains. So language is our primary tool, which forces us to look at patterns of syntax, design, etc. And so what does language do? According to me, this is now me and nobody else. It recognizes patterns in the world and merge. How many of you know merge? You know the syntactic operation merge? One person. This is a sacred object for linguistics, right? The operation merge. What are you merging? You are merging thoughts in language. And these are these recursive syntactic patterns. So you merge thoughts means you merge meaning cognitions. That is operation merge, which is realized syntactically, but it is really a simple operation. And that's why I asked linguists, exactly what are you merging? And finally, I read up enough to know that what linguists were talking about is merging thought. Merging thought is merging cognitive patterns. So, store memories. Okay, so now, look, are we having a conversation in the present tense in this room? We are. But when you go home and you store it in memory, you will have a narrative transcript, not a visual transcript. So you'll be combining visual images with words and so on and having a story. That's why I work on narrative, because it is our base mode of storing information. Make new additions to the material world, because we can make new words. Create a self-reflexive dialogue, which is the ability to hold conversations, and imagine make-believe words. So FLN, which is the Faculty of Language, narrowly defined, consisting of all and only recursion, okay, these repeated patterns, and the notion of the language FLB, which encompasses all our language activities. So Faculty of Language, broadly defined, has more than recursion. It has the world at its fingertips, all types of cognition. So the purpose of all these interface areas is really to help you to most richly infer meaning, which is where we go to the linguistic theories. This is my definition of language, which we won't go into. We can come back to tell you how much? 2 to 5 minutes. So, I'm sorry. Okay, so 2 to 5 minutes is not long enough for me. We started late, but this is, maybe I show you, we haven't come to rasa theory. So, that's okay, because we need a foundation for language. What we can do is to skip to rasa theory, but for me, explaining that via Darwin, minus Darwin is very difficult. I just want you to look at some images for the last 2 to 3 minutes and then go to rasa, because I have a complex argument and I don't want to reduce it, so we let it go. I mean, we let many things go. Okay, so we'll just, that's a quote for you. Homo phoneticus indicus was no mere cross-section larynx under an empty cranium. On the contrary, the whole man, head, heart and belly, made voice. Now this concept of the whole man is very interesting because it's head, heart and belly, and that's there in rasa. So I want to look at Darwin and just look at this text of Darwin's, which is called The Expression of Emotions in Man and Animals, which I have worked on. And he sent a questionnaire to lots of people, and the questionnaire was that, tell me how X or Y emotion is expressed in your culture. So he sent these questionnaires to India as well. And so he sent photographs as well as questionnaires. He had expressions like this. He used actors and so on. He used facial expressions. He used developmental evidence. And he believed that what he would find is that there was commonalities in facial expressions across cultures and across species, like chimps and so on. And this is the homunculus, which represents ourselves to ourselves. Okay. So these were Darwin's questions. Is astonishment expressed by the eyes and mouth being opened wide and by the eyebrows being raised? Does shame excite a blush where the colors of the skin allow it to be visible? When a man is indignant or defiant, does he frown, hold his shoulders apart, etc.? He thought there would be invariance. Now, when I was studying, so there were Darwin's questions, which I have reworked in many ways. He understood that non-verbal language performs many different actions in many different cultures. And I have re-administered the questionnaire and to many, many different types of audiences. And what I want to say is, we are going to be skipping here, is that when we look at rasa theory, what we find is that Darwin's list of basic emotions and the rasa list of basic emotions are very, very similar. Indeed, they are more or less the same, which is quite striking. So, like Darwin, Bharata is a very, very good observer of expressions and body language. So he socializes the emotion. So just to come to the various kinds of glances, he does a good job, looking at rasa. Rasa itself is a very old concept. We can trace it back to the Rigveda, and it has lots of different meanings. And then it becomes an abstract notion. This is when language starts to describe cognition. And you have it in Rasam, you have it in Saraswati. Rasa is there everywhere, the names of goddesses, in the names of food, and everywhere. But if you look at Geertz is a very well-known anthropologist, as some of you may know. He describes rasa as, when he studied Javanese culture anthropology, as both feeling and meaning. And meaning and feeling combine in rasa theory, according to Geertz, who's an anthropologist, and in contemporary cognitive linguistics, rasa is described as containing an element that is untranslatable. The word rasa, because it combines feeling and meaning, leads to a complex cognitive cluster which is untranslatable. So you have to understand a lot of cultural context before you understand what rasa is. But broadly speaking, we can say the following things about rasa. And I'll end with this, and we can contrast it with Darwin's view. Broadly speaking, a rasa is the abstract essence of the feeling which can never be captured. Hence, it is never wholly a given, but has to be created rather than merely recreated or represented. It has to be recognized. A rasa is not just there in the world, it has to be brought to life. So interest is a rasa, sringara is a rasa. But how is this achieved? So what does rasa consist of? Vibhava, Anubhava, Vyabharichari, Sanyoga, Rasa, Anishpati. So what initial contextual conditions plus bodily experience plus indirect transitory emotions equal a rasa, produce a rasa. When a rasa is produced, you have the illumination, cognition, which is called the sthayi bhava. So the stability comes from this process of combining contextual conditions and bodily experience. And to end with, I have lots more, but let's end with this. Why was the Natya Shastra written? We come to democracy. So, O Brahman, that is Bharata, how did the Natya Shastra originate? You have composed it, for whom is it meant, etc. Please speak to us in detail about it. And Bharata answers, and he answers, the gods with Indra as their head approached Brahman and spoke to him. We want an object of diversion, and remember, much cognition is about the unfocusing of attention. I laughed a lot when this was called a focused discussion, because I heard a lot of cognition is about unfocusing and refocusing. But anyway, we want an object of diversion which must be audible as well as visible. As the Veds, so we know about the caste system in India, as the Veds are not meant to be listened to by those born as Shudras, be pleased to create another Ved which will belong to all of us. Now this language as a Ved which belongs to all of us, which goes across disciplines, is important as trying to understand not only things like cognition, which is internal, but also social division and difference. In other words, this Veda, the Natya Shastra, was meant for democratic purposes. It was meant to be shared by all. So I think I'm up to my... 1 minute. Rasa theory emphasizes a thing does not exist out there. A rasa is always performative. It has to be enacted. It is a process rather than a thing. And it requires the notion of an audience. You cannot create a rasa on your own. You require the rasic. So this is an interdisciplinary, intertactile, embodied thing, rasa. And it cannot do with just one part. And audience of rasics is important, and it has bodily enactments, and it is arbitrary rather than national. These are the mudras. Can you interpret them? Little? You can, but only one or two, and there are hundreds. And the reason for that is it's codified. It's code, like a language. So you have to use naturalism as well. I'm going to skip this part, and I'm going to also skip, let me see. We want to talk, so I don't want to present a closing argument, so we'll stop there. But this notion of dancing together, which you get in all dance and so on, is intrinsic to multimodality, because think of, we are multimodal systems. Cognition involves multimodal systems, but so do art performances like Kathak, because they involve the whole body, because they involve music, song, dance, and words all together, And so it is performative. And human beings, the human body is meant to perform for other human beings. That is the nature of human style. So if you want to understand cognition, you have to understand cognition both outward in and inward out. And I think I'll stop there. Lots more to say, but we have to stop somewhere. Thank you very much.
Quickly, one or two questions. First question. A bit confused with the last one, that why Kathak is only performative and why Bharatanatyam is not?
No, but I couldn't put all the dances of India in. I put in one. Obviously, there are many. And so yes, Kathak was just a choice.
All dance forms.
Or I have got tap dancing on the other side, which of course does not belong to the Indian culture. But this is, we use accent class in linguistic exploration or any kind of exploration. And mothers' attempts at telling us their children's education. So Kristeva is right, so is everybody, we know this. So that there is an intuitive contact between one human being and another. I myself am interested in cognitions of breakdown. So for example, your friend has undergone terrible grief, right? When we are not talking about child and mother where it's individual, but also you may not find words. In that case, you will just put your arms around the child, around the person who has had a loss. This is where language breaks down, but the other cognitive systems merge. So Kristeva is right. We have done a lot of research on mothers. We found that, that they have been able to give us, we've done 500 mothers. So we've done a lot of work on interviewing and mothers. We find that all of them, when we take the unsorted result, and then we take, and these are hour-long interviews, we are asking them about their children, at what stage they saw an emotion, we find the hierarchy. With Darwin's reflections at the top at 4 years, and we find that emotion and language go in tandem. So around age 4, you have the completion of motor development, language development, and emotional development. So this is nice finding,
One brief last question, please.
What do you do? They have, you have to go for prayer. I have a small query also. So then, I don't think we should ask questions. It cannot stand in the way of prayer. Oh no, this is also a form of prayer.
You could have questions over here, please. Very beginning.
Okay. You still have time. The bell is ringing.
1 minute for me.